Watch Dogs 1 has been ripped to shreds for close to a decade with no end in sight. The sequel changed everything. It was loved just because it was the complete opposite of the original. No one gave a shit about Legion, no one cared enough to complain because Ubisoft released some other masterpieces around the same time. In my opinion, each Watch Dogs has gotten progressively worse. I think the original, while being as well done as raw meat, was still the best. There's a long list, and I mean a long list of complaints about the original. Empty trench coat for a protagonist, repetitive content, and of course, how can you forget, the game looked about as good as a mole rat with makeup. Other than completely misrepresenting, misleading, and downright trying to fool us, Ubisoft did a great job. What are some of the things you want in an action-adventure open-world game? Great combat, an immersive game world, somewhat functioning driving mechanics, and an interesting plot. Watch Dogs has 2 out of 4 of those things. What more do you want? If this keeps going, people are going to start asking for interesting protagonists. Man, gamers are spoiled these days. Chicago in Watch Dogs is as immersive as any game world not built by Rockstar, CD Projekt Red, Bethesda. But hey, only Prime Bethesda. Chicago is beautiful. It is actually really fun to drive around. Of course, that's all that's worth doing. There are some mini games, chess, some trippy finding eggs. The first time you do them, it's fun, and then you have as much fun as you would playing any other Ubisoft game from the last 3 years. But combat, third-person combat, is one of the best you'll experience in any open world game. It is so smooth. It flows like butter. Movement, an important aspect of combat, is miles ahead of any of its peers. GTA 5, Watch Dogs smokes it when it comes down purely to combat. It is not even close. GTA has more fun weapons, but it's just too much of a cover shooter to keep you engaged every second. If you played Uncharted 3, combat is like that. You have to keep moving, but it's actually fun to move. Ubisoft released AC Unity in the same year. The way parkour, gunplay, and the traditional cover system go together is just pure magic. Didn't matter how brain dead side missions were. I mean, gang hideouts. Gee, Ubisoft, you really got us with your creativity, didn't you? But even still, I completed every single one of those uber creative once-in-a-lifetime missions. When everyone is fighting and everyone and their mother, it's fun. But that doesn't mean it isn't fun when you're sneaking around. Another useful thing from Far Cry and Assassin's Creed. Stealth in open world games usually has the depth of a 2-foot well, but not here. Sneaking around is satisfying as all. Aiden is a joy to control. He moves like a ballerina, listens to you like a canine, and unlike other areas, stealth isn't broken at all. Awesome gunplay, great movement / parkour, perfect stealth, and I haven't even mentioned the thing that made this game such a big deal. Hacking was the thing that turned Watch Dogs into such a colossal hype train. It was cool, it was never really done before, and Ubisoft made it seem like it was a bigger part of the game than it was for sure. You can hack bridges, traffic lights, steam pipes, and that god-awful minigame that just won't go away. I want to know if even a single person liked it or at least gave a shit. I'll admit hacking definitely got better with each game. You could hack cars in Watch Dogs 2, you could do your own Tomorrow Never Dies bit. Drones and spiders are tedious. I don't want to control RCs that drive like cars in Watch Dogs 1. Ubisoft were very safe with Watch Dogs 2. Since everyone hated apparently everything about the first one, they did a 180, pretty much did the opposite of everything. A stoic, gloomy protagonist was replaced by a happy, goofy, go-lucky dork. Gloomy Chicago was replaced with sunny San Francisco. A generic personal revenge arc was replaced with a generic take down evil corporation arc. I think what happened here was people complained so much about the original, they couldn't do the same with the sequel without seeming like ungrateful brats. You can't complain about both sides, right? Driving was a little improved, vehicles are no longer flotation devices, the signature third-person combat has returned, and it's as good as it ever has been. The addition of a few gadgets changed things up a little. I don't have a single problem with combat in the game. It's a good enough game, but sometimes it feels just bland. Since we're talking about bland things, let's get to Legion. I mean, when people start saying Aiden Pierce is the best thing about your game, you really need to step back and have a look in the mirror. Somehow, some way they made me care even less about the plot here. I get why getting to play as anyone is intriguing, but a story-driven series with no story to drive, it makes about as much sense as Assassin's Creed going RPG. The only saving grace is gameplay and the open world. While London doesn't have all that much to do, it's still worth driving around. The play as anyone gimmick is amusing until you realize that's the thing the entire game is built on. I feel the game has both the first and second game's tone. It's a mix of the darkness and seriousness of Watch Dogs 1 and the silliness of Watch Dogs 2. So at times it feels like a dark comedy, which is one of the few things I liked on the narrative side of things. An overarching plot is non-existent, but cutscenes are still engaging because of the back and forth and how unpredictable characters are. Legion could have been truly great. The Bloodline DLC was a taste of what could have been. But it is what it is, and what it is a game that solely relies on one gimmick which wears out really fast. The more I play Legion, the more I like it. It's that tone that I talked about. It feels fresh, but for now I feel Watch Dogs 2 is slightly better. So each game in the series is worse than its predecessor. Ubisoft's other iconic franchise is even more complicated. Click the video on screen and watch me as I try to do the impossible. Try to prove Unity is better than Assassin's Creed 2. Meanwhile, like and subscribe, it really means a lot.